I'm going to quit YouTube for a simpler life. This is what I was thinking this morning as I was having my coffee on the terrace of a little cafe in an alleyway here in Vietnam. And this thought occurred to me like a little desire from the depths of my heart, longing for a taste of that ease, that naturalness, that rawness, that authenticity of what I was witnessing in this culture here. And as I was overlooking from the second floor down into the alleyway of the hustle and bustle, not really so hustle, not so busy, but the little bustle of the businesses and vendors driving around. Often here in Vietnam, you see people with a whole business on the back of their scooter, on the back of their motorbike, selling fruit or vegetables or spices or little goods that they can sell to you on the street. And one woman in particular pulled up and honking her horn and yelling at the neighbors as everyone ran out from their little homes, and desperately curious and interested in what she had for the day. And she, on the back of her motorbike, had this massive, beautiful bouquet of fresh produce and vegetables and fruits and all sorts of things. And people were lining up to get the first pick at the ripest, cleanest items. And I thought to myself, what would that be like? What would it feel like to live with that kind of a quality, that kind of a presence or devotion or way of being? And I'm not meaning to say that this was her intention or this was the way that she was living, but the contemplation that I was having is, what if it were done with this quality of presence? What if it were done with this kind of posture of intention? And in that moment, I realized that it's not so much that I want to be a street vendor or one of these Vietnamese delivery people, as fun as that might be. What I remembered is that it doesn't matter what you do. It matters where you're coming from with what you're doing, why you're doing it, what it means to you. And maybe most importantly, the quality of yourself that you bring to it. That quality of intention or the quality of presence that you show up in with whatever it is that you're doing. And despite what the online gurus or the coaches, these people that are aiming for more and bigger and better, that are trying to tell you online that you have to grow your business and serve more people, make a bigger impact, make more money, and all of this, as if that's better, as if that's actually more. But the quality of more in its true essence is the quality of depth. It's the quality of intention. It's the quality of presence that is brought to anything that you do. And so in truth, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter whether you work a corporate job. It doesn't matter whether you have a little shop. It doesn't matter whether you're starting up your own business. It doesn't matter if you're an artist or a creator or an entrepreneur or an athlete. It doesn't matter if you have any particular or specific job. It doesn't matter if it's in a religious context or in a spiritual context. Along the way, we have a tendency, I think, to kind of conceptualize these things and then make that a measure of its success. But none of that matters if it's not for it being in alignment with you, if it's not for coming from a place of passion within you, if it's not born of a pure, passionate heart. And if you're not bringing that intention and that quality of you into what you're doing day in and day out. Because you see, it's more of a devotion. That's the thing I think in the modern world, maybe in the Western world mostly, that we've sort of lost touch with, is this devotional posture, this devotional quality in what we're doing. And I've been traveling pretty much nonstop for the last 5 years, and I've lived in more than 15 different countries in that time. And I've had the privilege and the honor of being able to do the work that I do in all of these different countries and witness the different cultures and the different kinds of people that there are and all the different types of work that they're doing. And the one thing that I've noticed, especially in perhaps the sort of less developed countries, I spent several months in Colombia, several months in Mexico. I've spent the last several months in Bali, Indonesia, and I've been now here for over 3 months in Vietnam, and I've noticed something similar in these countries. It's that despite the perhaps poverty or less sort of abundant financially, the people may seem to be, there is a certain quality of happiness that they bring to their work. It's a certain devotional quality that they show up in with whatever it is that they're doing. And it's not necessarily the kind of happiness that we measure or see in the Western world of, I have more, I do more, I get more, and that brings me happiness. This is a very natural, innate, inherent kind of a happiness, which is a sort of peace. It's a joyful peace. It's a naturalness that is a moment-to-moment expression. And in that, there's something very beautiful. There's something very powerful. There's a profound rawness, realness, authenticity. And this is what has me remembering that actually it's the experience that we offer. It's that vibrational quality that we transmit. It's that priceless, subtle power of our presence, which is conveyed in what we do, throughout everything we do, in our moment-to-moment daily routines and chores and activities, that is the most impactful thing that we have to offer. It doesn't matter if you build a revolutionary technology or business or new methodology that can reach and change the lives of so many people. If the quality of your beingness is actually the foundational impact that's being had. And this is where it becomes even more subtle, because we think that the greatest impact we can have is reaching more people and making more of a difference. But in truth, all of this is coming out of the lens of our belief system. And I've spoken about this before, and it's one of the quotes that I love most about Einstein, is that we cannot solve a problem from the same level of thinking that created it. And that's what most of us are doing. That's what the state of our modern entrepreneurship and scientific kind of discoveries and explorations and technology are all addressing, right? They're all seeking to solve a certain problem in the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the where it becomes a sort of futile process is that the actual cause underneath that problem that's being solved is coming from a level of consciousness. And the real solution, if you want to call it that, is actually the understanding of that cause underneath that problem, underneath that circumstance or situation. And then through the understanding of that cause, the elevating of the awareness and the consciousness out of that sort of limited, unconscious thinking that produced the problem. So we can come up with all the technology, all of the solutions, all the new businesses, all of the more convenience, more fill in the blank with whatever more better that we can come up with. But if it doesn't come from an elevated consciousness addressing the cause to illuminate the understanding, then we're only actually perpetuating the problem and dulling our senses, undermining our awareness, and disempowering anyone that comes in contact with that quote-unquote solution. And this is where it's very kind of tricky and subtle and even sort of insidious, but not necessarily intentionally, which is that there's a natural infinite intelligence underneath the presence that you are when you show up in alignment with your true self that operates under a sort of path of least resistance with the greatest magnitude. Because when you are open and pure of heart, pure of spirit, when you are empty, so to speak, when you are a channel, a conduit for that intelligence, for life itself, for God, for your higher self, for the heart of life, what happens is that infinite intelligence uses you to reach as many people are ready for that, resonating with that, open to that. And that is the highest service, the highest impact that we can make. Funnily enough, when we get out of the way, when we think we know that we're solving a problem, when we think we know we're going to make an impact, is generally the situation where we're not going to make the most impact. But in the moment where we are pure and clear in our presence, in our awareness, and not coming in with a kind of agenda, not coming in with a particular motive and needing that to be the outcome, expecting that, insisting on that to be the outcome, and then sort of being rigid in that. That's undermining that natural infinite intelligence, which is the only true power to awaken, to inspire, to uplift, to empower, to impart understanding and insight and realization, this sort of enlightenment of the moment. And you can't really know when that's going to happen or how that's going to happen. You can only be available for that to happen. And that's that sort of opening for that greater aspect of you to move through. And that's why it doesn't matter what you do, because it matters where you're coming from. It matters the quality of the presence that you're bringing to it, because it's that sort of divinity that is working through you in that moment. And it's reaching into the depths of the soul, of the heart of the other person or the other people to awaken within them that same quality. And so this is where our sort of modern world has diluted and even diluted and distorted the idea of impact. And it's a great shame, because it also undermines and sucks the life and the happiness and the joy out of what we're doing, thinking that we need to do this or that in order to make more impact, when it's actually what you most are inspired to do, what you're most passionate about, what you most love to do. That moment where you lose yourself completely in the experience, in the act of creation, in that process, in the unfolding, that you are in alignment with that divinity, that higher quality, that truth of yourself, which is allowing for that unfolding. And so this is maybe a bit of a tangent or a deviation from the original point, because I'm not necessarily suggesting that this Vietnamese woman on the back of her motorbike selling these goods is doing that, but it's a reminder of the power of presence and that you can buy a bicycle or a motorbike and sell some goods on the back of it. And it's how you show up in that. It's how you meet your neighbor in that. It's the quality of the love in your heart and the clarity of your presence and the receptivity of your awareness to be able to meet another purely, honestly, humbly, and for that to be a sort of mirror into the depths of who they are, so that they can remember in that moment all that they can show up as, all that they can be, all the possibilities that are right before them. And perhaps that's the greatest impact that we can make. And when I remember that, I feel that I just want the simplest things. You know, I want to start a little bed and breakfast and welcome guests from all over the world and make a beautiful experience for them and just be myself and be available for them and listen and be curious about who they are and what they've experienced and everything that's happening for them. And it's kind of a beautiful thing that we think that we praise people or we can be nice to people and offer them a compliment and that's what they want. We think that's what they want, but actually the highest praise that we can offer someone, the highest gift that we can offer someone is that pure presence of listening, of being available, of being present with them. And that's what I desire. That's my intention in everything that I do. It's why I do what I do. It's why I show up on YouTube in the way that I show up. It's why I work with individuals, entrepreneurs and artists and other guides in the way that I do, to reflect back to them who they really are, just by virtue of being who I am and being clear and open and receptive, being present, and allowing that source to operate, to communicate through me. And it is that quality of presence that I'm devoted to. And from there, maybe I'm going to go and buy a motorbike and sell some goods on the back of it as well. Maybe I'll share some videos of that. Or maybe I'll start a little cafe and make every cup of coffee the most intentional, beautiful gift that can be possibly made. And every interaction with every customer, a little moment of precious, priceless presence where they can remember that life is so much simpler and so much more profound and so much more beautiful in the in-between moments of our day-to-day life, of the hustle and the bustle and going from here to there and wanting this and trying to do this and proving this and over-delivering on this and making impact here, making a difference here. It's those little in-between moments where the greatest impact is made. And so maybe I'll do these things, maybe I'll do none of these things. Maybe I'll just continue making these videos and working with these people. Maybe I'll work with a cafe owner. Maybe I'll help guide a B&B founder, owner. That's what I want. That's what I desire. I desire to work with people and bring out the best in them so that they can bring the best of them into what they do, so that they can bring out the best in others. And that will be a cascade effect into co-creating with you a beautiful world full of presence and depth and authenticity and intimacy and connection, not only with ourselves and with others, but with a greater aspect of what we all truly are. And that is true fulfillment for me. And that is my intention. And so it is done.